The production team and on-screen talents are not professionals or experts in the mental health field. For more resources and information for on-campus, reach out to the Slippery Rock Student Counseling Center at 724-738-2034. If not on campus and you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts or a crisis, please reach out to the 24/7 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. Welcome to the happy hour.
That's right. Folks, take a deep breath with me right now. Come on. We are glad you're here.
Coming up, Jeremy's interview with the Chief Diversity Officer and Director of Academic Progress, a group discussion from our roundtable, and some fun highlights to help us unwind.
All right, now in this episode of the Happy Hour, we will discuss resources that students can use on and off campus. So let's welcome John Rindy, the Assistant Vice President of the Career and Academic Progress. Is that correct?
That's correct. You almost promoted me to president.
Almost. I'm not going to let you get away with that. Not yet, at least. And then we also have Dr. Anthony Jones, and he is the Chief Diversity Officer. How are you folks doing today?
Good.
Terrific.
Terrific. Excellent. Well, we're really happy to have you on. Could each of you tell me a little bit about yourselves and maybe what you do?
Anthony Jones, Chief Diversity Officer. I am in roughly going into my second year and a half here on campus.
Okay.
Love working with students. I have the opportunity to create some space that is great resource space for students to help point them in the right direction, which I'm sure we'll unpack shortly.
Yes.
I'm just happy to be here and be a part of the community. So.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything you do. Dr. Rindy.
Well, I've been at the Rock for about a little over 12 years now, and actually we came from the same college before this.
Yes.
We were both Teal College guys.
Teal.
We came down here, and so I started as career director for the Career Education and Development Office, and then 3 years ago I moved into the Assistant Vice President role. So I work with success coaching and exploratory tutorial services, career, distinguished scholarships, a lot of the different services on campus.
I got you. Well, once again, excellent to have you both on. Now, before we start with the interview portion, we had the chance to talk with a couple of the students around campus about their awareness of on-campus resources. So we put together a little package. Here's that clip.
I'm aware of one. I'm only aware of the Student Counseling Center, but that's about it.
I've used the counseling center before. The only time I went was during my sophomore year maybe, or it might have been towards the end of my freshman year, like right before COVID. I can't remember exactly. I didn't have the best experience. It was really hard getting an appointment, and the appointment I did schedule, she was a graduate student, which isn't a bad thing, but it very much felt like a therapy session that you see on TV, where she was just like, and how does that make you feel? And I was like, well, it makes me feel really crappy. Like, that's why I'm here. So it wasn't the best experience.
Not too many, honestly. Not too many of them. Kind of the only resources that I have are kind of like personal ones, friends, family, things of that sort.
I am, but only the ones that the counseling center offers. I think I've heard of maybe like a few, but not very specifically what they do.
All right, gentlemen. So after hearing that, it is inherent that we have finals week coming up, right? So with that in mind, how important do you think it is for students to have these resources?
So I'll jump in. I think it's extremely important. I will say it's a little disheartening to hear some of the responses in really just helps me feel like we need to do a better job. And I think some of that is just helping students understand where to go and where to locate those resources. So something we try to do through my office, if you go to our website, you can go to the homepage, scroll to the bottom. There's a DEIB link that stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And we try to make our page a hub to take you to the places where you can find different resources on campus. So understanding that we don't house those resources, we do try to find, help you navigate yourself to those resources, which is some of what I believe I heard is just students didn't know exactly where to go to find those resources. So that's the biggest thing, is to help students identify it. And help students feel comfortable going to those spaces as well, especially during tough times like finals week, where we know stress levels can be really high, but do students feel comfortable, and then ultimately do students even know where to go to get that support. So.
Yeah, no, I can't agree with you more when you said that was disheartening. It's that news, but it's important to know that we do have things on campus that could help out, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Dr. Randy, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Since all of my offices are very much student-facing, every student comes to a service with a specific expectation. I'll say, for example, with the career office, if there's somebody who is exploring majors right now, they're sitting in that seat waiting for the appointment, and they're expecting to walk out knowing what they're going to do.
Yeah.
You have to remember that they haven't been able to figure it out in 17 years. They're not going to figure it out in an hour.
Yes.
So even in a clinical mental health counseling setting, every counselor is going to work in different ways. They're going to reflect back what you're saying to make sure they're hearing what you're saying, and they're going to ask a lot about how you're feeling along the way. So reading up a little bit before you maybe engage in counseling, understanding what's going to go on, and understanding that every counselor has their own technique. But I think another thing we've done a good job on campus is really breaking down certain barriers to access. So down, for example, in tutorial services this year, we added academia, so students don't have to have that uncomfortable, anxious moment of walking up to a desk and saying, "I need help." Because a lot of our students are very high achieving, so now you can just do it right from your phone and request those appointments. Same thing with peer academic coaching, where frankly a lot of those discussions uncover underlying anxieties and depression, and then of course we make those referrals to counseling. So the university constantly has to continue to look at ways to break down those barriers.
Right, I got you. Excellent. So how do you guys try to make sure that students are aware of these resources? Like, what do we do about that?
Yeah, so one thing I think is really important is we help students understand that resources aren't always like a physical space. So I think it's important that we know that you can go to a police officer, which I know oftentimes that stigma isn't there, that a police officer may help you, but they definitely can help and get you in the right direction, point you in the right direction, connect you to the right people. Your coaches, if you're on a sports team, resident assistants in the housing space, graduate assistants in that space. That point person, faculty or staff member for you, because the idea is just to help you find those spaces, and oftentimes it's those people that you're most comfortable with. If you can share what you're experiencing, what you're going through, they can help make those connections for you. Oftentimes, and I will say, I know a lot of faculty and staff will do this, and I'm one of those, and I know Dr. Rindy as well. We'll physically walk you over to a space, because I know that can be intimidating to go into a counseling space and say I'm depressed, or I'm stressed.
Definitely.
Anxiety is high, whatever that may be. So we'll walk you there, make sure you have the conversations the way you need to, you connect to the right people, and get you the help that you need, and then just to be there to follow up with you as well. So sometimes it really is leaning on those people around you. As some of the students shared, which I was actually glad to hear that, they share with the students or they share with family, but you're not keeping these things bottled up. So I think that's one of the most important pieces when you talk about finding resources. So.
Right, and breaking down those barriers is important, and I think that's one of the reasons we've really changed orientation over the years. I think, when I came to the Rock 12 years ago, orientation looked very different than it looks today. And one of the things I speak to new students about in the morning is your advisory board. When you pay tuition, you're not just paying to sit in a class. I mean, 70 million people have a college degree. They sat in a class. That doesn't make you unique. What makes you unique is when you employ your advisory board. So what you're paying is almost like a subscription service to all kinds of experts, like Dr. Jones and Keisha Booker, who's in Dr. Jones's office, all of your career people, your alumni engagement people, student engagement and leadership. And I always say there's no pride in doing it alone, first of all.
Okay.
And that advisory board should be the people you should feel comfortable turning to. I mean, we're always on the student's side. And so we really try to break down that barrier, lower that anxiety with students so that they know they can turn to their CA, they can turn to their resident director, they can go back to the admissions person who recruited them.
Yeah. That's awesome, guys. Thank you so much for that. So sometimes there may be a stigma when it comes to using these resources. We kind of touched on that. So how do you try and break that stigma?
Yeah, I mean, I try to break it by example. Just speaking specifically, I think when you talk about that stigma in the Black community, that's a huge thing. A lot of individuals who grow, African American individuals, you're taught to handle situations on your own. You don't ask for help. You take it all on and you figure it out. And that's not the most healthiest approach to do these things. So, I mean, those are stigmas I battle myself. So I try to model just a better approach. I'm currently in counseling, therapy rather. I go every Monday at 4 o'clock, and those sessions have been extremely helpful to my mental health. I lost my father in August, and I spiraled a bit, just to be honest. I will say I didn't think it would have an impact on me in the way that it did, but I needed to sort that out and deal with those emotions, and that was not something, I don't know how productive I would have been to students if I would have tried to do that on my own. And I openly share that because I think that's important to share. Sometimes you need help. It's okay.
100%.
So just try to model it.
I really connect with that, Dr. Jones. So I also use counseling on a monthly basis, and that's just to kind of reflect back on what's going on in the month, throughout the month, and process that. But another discussion I often have with students who are considering using our counseling center is that, and I share this pretty widely, I happen to be an insulin-dependent diabetic, and if I don't take my insulin, I'm not going to be around very long. And it's just like if you need treatment for mental health, why is that any different? And I'm so glad that society is slowly adjusting and adapting to that. You need to have treatment for that sort of thing. Let's face it, you're coming from high school where you know everybody, and then you go home to a house where you know everybody, and then suddenly you're in this environment where the academics are tougher. You're told you have to get involved in this stuff outside of classroom, and you don't really know anybody. Of course you're going to have a little bit of angst, and some people a lot of angst, and that's why these resources are here. So like Dr. Jones does, I really try to break down the barriers by saying, listen, let's talk through mental health. Mental illness is just like any other illness. It needs to be treated, you need to attend to it, and you need to attend to it quickly. Don't let things spiral out of control. Miss another class, then you become more anxious. Miss another exam, now you become more anxious. And we often see that with new students particularly, and that's why one of the other messages I say at orientation is check your email and go to class. If you could just do those two things for the first half of the semester, you're going to be in really good shape.
Yeah, you're going to be building those good habits, you know what I mean?
Right.
Going to be breaking down that. I like that a lot, so thank you guys. Now, before we jump into our final two questions, we also had a chance to ask students whether or not they've used any resources. So we built one more package for you guys. I'm going to view that right now.
I have not used any, and I don't necessarily know anybody else who has, but yeah, I'm not really sure of other people who have used them.
I've only used the counseling center and the individual counseling of it.
And then I've used resources at through like Butler Medical Systems near like Butler Hospital, like 30 minutes away. That was a little bit better, but it still wasn't a great experience.
I only use the student counseling one, but otherwise I really haven't used anything else.
Yes, so we saw those answers right there, and with finals week coming up so quickly, we see a spike in anxiety around campus, right? So what are ways that students can combat those feelings?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, and kind of trying to understand who you are and how you manage stress. So that might not always be sitting down and talking to someone. That might be going to the gym, that might be going for a run, that might be just taking deep breaths, as we started off of the show with. So you really just have to try to understand yourself a little bit to see what are some steps that you can take. But there'll be several programs going on throughout finals week that will help you deal with stress, whether that's the different aromas and rice in the sock to squeeze and just things along those lines. Like, I know those programs will be taking place. So seek those programs out. Don't shy away from attending because those things will actually help in that process of managing stress. One thing I did want to speak on as the students were sharing, and I know this wouldn't necessarily help with finals week as that's coming up quickly. But I guess the grand scheme of therapy, oftentimes you may go through a few therapists before you find that person for you. So I try to encourage people not to be discouraged if the first 3 people don't work out. Because when you find that person that fits with you, that's when it comes together. Again, sharing from my own experience, I went through 5 therapists before I found someone I was comfortable with. And when it worked, we were clicking, and it was just like, I'm pouring out now. Because I just found someone who asked the right questions and followed up the right way and really helped me process through some of the things that I was feeling. So more of a long-term perspective on that. But in the short term, just make sure you take advantage of things that are happening on campus. So.
Gotcha.
All right, jump onto core. I mean,
absolutely.
Dr. Moran just applauded from home, I think. But jump onto core and see. I mean, that's always telling you. I mean, almost every office on campus that is doing something puts it on core. So take advantage of that. You know, you still have enough time between now and finals to visit with a peer academic coach and find out about those study techniques. The idea that you're in a class where you have to do a final exam that's going to cover 5 or 6 chapters in an area like biology, where every chapter might be 80 pages. The idea that you're going to read that and then reread that's not a good study technique. So your success coaches and their peer academic coaches can show you better ways to do what we call self-testing, what we call spaced practice, where you actually have to walk away from things for a little bit. The idea that you sit down and cram is not the best way to study. You need to walk away from studying and let the neurons in your brain process that and make the connections between the different areas you're studying. Your brain continues to work when you walk away from studying. But most students don't know that. They adopted a certain way of studying in high school, whether it was good or not, or effective or not, and then they bring it here. But that's why we have experts. If you want to learn philosophy, you go to our philosophy faculty. If you want to learn social work, you go to our social work faculty. But if you want to understand cognition and metacognition and learning techniques and priority management and academic motivation and academic positive attitude, positive mindset, growth mindset, you go to the success coaches because they're absolute experts in that. And then we have 12 peer academic coaches, at least 2 in every college, who are trained under a certified program to work and help and support our success coaches. So we really have an army of people, but the idea is, you know, and I say this all the time, don't pay your money at window 1 and then drive off without your food. You make that tuition payment every semester, and then you've got this entire board of advisors that are available to you. This idea that you're going to sit and try to use a study technique that's just not been effective for a whole semester or maybe for 2 years. Use those resources. They're absolute experts.
I got you, folks. You heard it here from the experts. You know, do what works for you. Check out core, and the things are on campus. You know, we have everything from success coaches to the events that were mentioned on core. That's some really, really good advice. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And with all that being said, sometimes the on-campus resources are there for us only when we're here. So when students graduate and they're gone, how do you help them find off-campus resources to use as well?
Yeah, one of my mottos is if you get me, you got me. So I've been to, I believe this is my 6th institution. So I still talk to students from the first one.
Is that right?
I do. My cell phone number hasn't changed, so feel free to call. And I still give advice. I try to give direction and so forth. So for me, I believe a lot of that is contextual on what is the actual situation. But I will always try to connect students to the resources that I have personally or the resources that I know are available. And oftentimes, and I know I'm talking more generally, but to be specific, it depends on where you are and, again, what you're going through. But we will sit down and we will figure this out. That's Google searches to find things that are local in the space, several opportunities for therapeutic services that are free, that are just kind of nationally out there, depending on like if you're a male, female, black, or like those things matter as far as if you can get services for free. So there's several websites that you can explore for those things. So really just try to help students all the way through. try to teach and model that idea of not being afraid to ask for help. But I think the important other side of that is you have to be there when someone actually asks for it. So again, if you get me, you got me. So I provide those resources until one day I'm not here, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'll start by saying, first of all, the career office at Slippery Rock is free to alumni. So alumni can always come back and get connected there, especially if they're feeling a little anxious about a job search. Maybe they don't have a job after 3 or 4 or 5 months. Come back to the career office. Once again, they're absolute experts in that job search. But along those same lines, we offered here a few weeks ago the Senior Transition Conference. So students come to pick up their cap and gown, and then there's sessions they could go to, there were information tables they could talk with. And one thing that a lot of people don't consider is if they're moving to a new town or they're going off on their own for the first time, the other side of the city, who is going to be their provider in terms of mental health care? That's something you have to think about ahead of time. I have we'll say a friend of the family who moved from Miami, Florida, and is currently studying in the physician assistant program over at Ashland University in Central Ohio.
Yeah.
Had a mental health practitioner in Miami and never sought one out when she moved to Central Ohio. And she really struggled for months because of that until I kind of prompted that individual to say, you need to find somebody, find a practitioner there. So you have to take that seriously. And just like I would, I need to find another endocrinologist to work with if I moved somewhere else. You have to make sure that that practitioner is there. And like Dr. Jones said, I had the same experience. I had to go through several therapists before I found somebody I really connected with.
I got you.
Yeah, sometimes that is a reference thing as well. So just even helping someone think of the idea to ask the person you worked with to help point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Because the network, I mean, it's the country, so you think it's huge, but it's really a small network, just like higher education or most things. So it's a good chance they could connect you with someone. But again, we just got to be more conditioned to ask the questions, to ask for help. So.
And use LinkedIn before you move somewhere.
Yeah,
So you can search LinkedIn, you can search a city and find Slippery Rock alumni who are already in that area. So you would immediately have an advisory board of 10, 20, 30 people. I mean, areas like Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Boston, we have dozens and dozens of alumni there who are already boots on the ground and have been there, and they know what's what. So why wouldn't you tap into that advisory board? We have 75,000 living alum. Take advantage of that, because even connecting with the Slippery Rock alum on LinkedIn, you already have something in common with them. So it's easy to start a conversation, even if it is about your experience at Slippery Rock.
Gotcha. Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Well, we have one last question for y'all today.
Make it an easy one.
I'll try my best. Here it is. What were your experiences like with resources in college?
Oh, wow. You got me thinking. So I think there wasn't an issue of lack of resources. There was an issue of lack of using the resources. As I hear the students, that is very reminiscent to my undergraduate experience, where I was still working through that process of you need to do this on your own. I was thankful to have people who kind of sought out, because I went to a small private liberal arts institution, so it was space for that to happen, where people would come check on you if you missed too many classes, or like literally knock on your door and be like, what's going on here, type of thing. So that process was really helpful to help pull not just myself, but a lot of students out of some dark places as we were trying to navigate. As you said, like, this is new, and I'm just trying to navigate that space. So definitely thankful for those experiences, but I take a lot of those ideals now and I try to apply them, and that is, how can we help students be more confident in being comfortable and okay with saying I need help, because I had people who really helped me work through that process. So definitely utilize those resources once I was kind of pulled out of that space of not wanting to ask, and it really helped change my whole experience. I was dealing a lot with culture shock. Being at a predominantly black school and then going to a predominantly white college, I felt like a fish completely out of water. So I struggled with how to just be, which I never even thought was a thing I would experience. And counseling helped through that process to better understand just how to be who you are in whatever space that you're in. So completely turned my college experience around.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, my college was back in the Stone Ages, of course.
Back in the Stone Age.
Yes, that's right. No, I went to a somewhat larger institution, larger than Slippery Rock. And I will tell you, I had first gone to school as a music education major, and I not only was I set in that way, I had told everybody I'm going to be a band director. And it wasn't too long I realized that this is not high school band, and I was not enjoying myself. And in fact, I spiraled to a point where I developed chronic fatigue syndrome, and I ended up finding our counseling center, and I can still remember his name. It's Dr. Jim Esperone, and boy, I tell you, he really helped me turn things around. I got involved, joined a fraternity, and suddenly I had a tribe. Suddenly I had a tribe, and that made all the difference for me. So, I certainly experienced, even back in the day, as they say, that would have been 1984 or 85, some of the same things that students are experiencing today.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's an extremely hard process to do on your own. So I would encourage
100%.
any student, like you said, to find your tribe. Whether that's faculty, staff, I'm sure that would be in large part students, but you really need to find your home. It will make the process so much easier.
Yes, folks, find your tribe. Find your tribe. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on today. Dr. Jones, Dr. Rendy, you guys were great. I really appreciate you. Do you have any last parting words to say before we wrap up this segment?
I like the pieces that you added. When you spoke about this being an investment, you don't pay at window one, you drive off at window two.
That was nice.
That really drives the point home. You're paying for it already, so take advantage of it. If anything, don't waste your money, but you definitely want to make sure that you're okay, which is more important than anything. So be motivated by one of the two. That would be my closing piece.
I think I'd just reiterate what I said earlier. There is no pride in doing it alone. And I know I was born in Western Pennsylvania, raised in Eastern Ohio. I lived in some other places, but most of my life has been here. And we sort of have that just suck it up, you can do it attitude. I'll just cite, for example, one assessment we do with freshmen is the Learning and Study Strategies Inventory. Do you know that the average Slippery Rock first-year student scores at the 37th percentile in terms of their likelihood of using academic resources? Now, that's on a national scale.
Yes.
So we're more than 10% below national average. It's kind of that Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio, just suck it up, bootstrap it, you don't need any help. You do need help. You need a tribe. And that's why, don't pay your money at window one and drive off without you. You paid for all this, and we love you like our own kids. So always come forward and talk to us. I don't know what's in your head until you share with me.
Well, guys, thank you again for coming on. We'll be back with our roundtable segment, and that's going to be hosted by Lizzie after the break.
Hi, I'm Rob Disman, and I'm the owner of your local Domino's Slippery Rock. I started out with Domino's as a delivery driver when I was in college. Ended up really liking the job. Worked my way up through management to the supervisor. I did that for about 10 years. My family, we decided that we couldn't really go any further with that, so we decided to go ahead and become a franchisee with Domino's. I'm lucky enough to have enough community support that most customers have become more than just customers, they're more like friends. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this community for 20 years, and I look forward to many more years.
As years pass and people come and go from our lives, all we have is our memories. From the family gathering to the summer baseball games to that first trip to Disney, those memories are something to be cherished. I thought many of those memories were lost to time and outdated technology, but with Memory Lane Media, they gave me those memories back so that I can share them with my grandkids, and they can share them with their kids one day.
My name is Will Gormley, and I'm the owner of the Dinky Dachshund Tattoo Parlor. Here at Dinky Dachshund Tattoo Parlor, we offer a variety of body piercings, tooth gems, tattoos, custom artwork, commission artwork. What our inspiration here at the Dinky Dachshund is to just look at the walls, look around the shop. There's so much stuff in here to look at. Our goal here is to supply our customers with a personalized, high-quality experience when getting a tattoo or a piercing.
My name is Lily Hazett. I am the receptionist and the piercer. We also offer different kinds of jewelry, color jewelry, whether it's a hoop, a stud, and everyone can kind of pick out what they want. They don't have to start with something that's plain. They can start with something that makes them happy and it'll look good on their body or ear.
I'm Alex Aspinall, and I'm the shop's second artist. What sets us apart from the other shops in town, the 6 other shops in town, is that we care. We like to make sure that every tattoo is for you from us, because we care.
Welcome back. Today we are joined by 2 students for our happy hour roundtable. Welcome everyone. Can you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Hope Young and I am a digital media production major here at Slippery Rock.
And my name is Emily Worley. I'm also a communication major here at Slippery Rock.
Nice to have you guys here. Thank you for being on the show today. And we're also joined once again by Dr. Rindy and Dr. Jones, who are going to join in our discussion a little bit more. So welcome. During this roundtable discussion, please feel free to interject and add your thoughts and suggestions. And let me start by asking our roundtable participants, are you aware of the mental health resources available to you on campus?
Vaguely.
Vaguely.
I know about like 3 places, so.
Okay.
Yeah, same, a little bit.
Okay, which resources are you guys familiar with?
I know the counseling center. I have interacted with the student success coaches, and I have also interacted with the disability office. So.
I've interacted with the Success Center and the Counseling Center.
That's good to hear that you guys are using these resources that we're pushing so hard for students to use. So when did you first become aware that these resources were available to you?
I always knew about the counseling center at least, but I didn't really know that much about the student success coaches until my freshman year because I needed to take some time off of school, and I decided to take a gap year, and you have to meet with student success coaches. I should probably stop saying that word.
You got it.
But you have to interact with or see them before you decide to leave. And she was, I'm not sure who helped me, but she was extremely helpful for me. And she helped me just with some like life issues I had going on as well. So it was very beneficial for me.
That's great.
I used the counseling center sophomore year because I felt like I needed to use it. So that's kind of, I reached out, went on the website and looked up like what I needed to look up. And then my junior year, so last year, towards the end in the spring, I was thinking about like internships and stuff, and now I'm graduating in May, so I've been using the Success Center a little bit more just for help with my future.
Yeah, I've also used those resources too. I get my resume updated very frequently, cover letter, and I've also used the counseling center and found it very helpful. Dr. Rindy or Dr. Jones, would you like to comment on any of the resources available on campus? You guys did a really great job of already talking about them, but anything else you want to say while we're in our kind of more student-centered discussion?
Yeah, I think I would want to kind of push the questions a little bit. For our guest, what would you say to a student, because you all have took advantage of the resources on campus, what would you say to a student who may be hesitant to use counseling services or success coaches? How would you help kind of navigate that for them?
Well, for starters, it's not embarrassing. I feel like that's something I struggled with whenever I was deciding to like take a gap year, is I didn't want to ask for help from anybody. And talking to whoever I talked to, I'm not sure who it was, it also kind of inspired me to just go to therapy, like in general. And I did that. I went to therapy for a year afterwards during my gap year, and it really helped me and like kind of like changed my view on like schooling and everything like that. So I thought it was very worth it.
I would just say that you don't have to have like a specific reason to start going. Like, I don't know, like when I started, I went for a specific reason, and then I stopped going because that reason wasn't, I don't know what's the word, like I felt like what's the word?
Like you resolved it,
yes,
or it wasn't as prominent.
Yeah. And I wish I kept going just to like keep my mental health in check. I don't go currently, but I do think I want to start going back as I'm getting into a very big change next month with graduation.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. I didn't mean to push too far off track with the original question, but I wanted to ask that question because I think it's really important that we work through our internal issues to allow us to access or to pursue access to the different resources that we have on campus. So I just wanted you to share your perspectives on how you were able to do that or why you were able to do that, because I think that is one of the huge barriers of actually reaching out and saying I need help. I think embarrassment can be a big part of it. I think family, I think there's a lot, which oftentimes therapy helps you unpack those things, but you have to get through that internal process first. So that would be my addition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons for First Seminar. I mean, we have an array of people who come into First Seminar and speak in clinical mental health. You hear from your success coaches usually not only hear from career, but you have an assignment with career. And the idea there is to break down that barrier of fear. You know, the career office sounds like a place that's going to be judgment and well, I better get dressed up to go in there. And then you go in there and you realize that it's actually really pleasant and the people are positive and fun. In fact, most of the people in the career office who use the career office say they would come back. I would also say that I think it's around 95% of our students are so confident leaving, they go on to teach someone else what they learn. We actually measure that every year. So they're just great resources, and both of you, I applaud you for just getting past those barriers and now being willing to come and talk about that and give your experience and let other people see that these are great resources to use. Certainly you pay for them, but moreover, those folks then become part of your tribe, and you can turn back to them and give advice to maybe some of the younger students on campus.
Right, and I keep saying on these episodes, these resources on campus, these are people who have dedicated their careers to helping students. Like, they want to help you. It's not embarrassing or weird or anything to reach out. Like, that is what they're there for. So yeah, just to reiterate that.
I like to say every morning I leave my family and I come home to my family.
Yeah, you guys are here for the students, yeah. And then also touching on how you said, like, we treat our physical illnesses, why don't we treat our mental illnesses, and how you said you were kind of going like proactively. It made me think of, like, you see your primary care physician once a year, every year, even if you don't have a problem, or you should, and you go to the dentist every 6 months. Like, why aren't we doing that with mental health? I feel like that should become more the norm. So it's good to hear that you've thought of using them in that way. And Dr. Jones, your question did not throw us off track. That was the perfect segue into what is your advice for students that are nervous? How do we calm these nerves about going to seek out these resources?
I feel like one thing I do a lot just when I'm feeling anxious is just like reassuring yourself and just being like, it's okay. Like, there are a ton of people that go and ask for help. You're not gonna like throw your life off if you like need to take a break and like take a breath. But yeah, I guess just reassurance, I feel like, is a big thing for me, at least.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I would just say, like, surrounding yourself with people that support you and like that support you wanting to go to therapy and making sure you have a great positive energy around you.
Yeah, and the resources there is because the reason it's there is because there's a need for it. You're not the only one that needs it. All these other students and people need these resources, and that's why we have them. So yeah, that's a great point. I want to switch gears and talk about off-campus resources available to our students. So Dr. Indy and Dr. Jones, could you talk about the resources that students can find off-campus?
Well, certainly I know that our health center has arrangements with a lot of the health centers in the area because we can't have 24-hour medical coverage. Certainly emergency services, certainly our police, and a reminder that the police like when you call the police when we have an on-campus emergency if somebody is feeling like they're very depressed or in a state of potential self-harm, call our campus police, because they will actually be able to get somebody directly here. Sometimes calling 911 isn't the best thing. It's calling the campus police and they take care of it. But really, I mean, even when you look at our Pride Center and our Women's Center, we're connected to so many of the nonprofit organizations in this area that support our students. Even some of our alum are using CareerLink, PA CareerLink, once they get off campus, because you know, unemployment is a heavy-duty thing to deal with when you have bills to pay and mouths to feed too. So Butler County has been good partners with Slippery Rock in terms of nonprofit support for the institution and our graduates and our students.
That's great to hear that we've made those connections in our community that are available to students, and we're promoting those. Yeah. So are there specific places that the university tends to recommend when helping them locate the best off-campus resource for them? So like you said, like the police and like other Butler County health services, anything else?
Yeah, I think that varies, because a lot of our students, once they graduate, they don't necessarily stay in the area. I think Dr. Rendy's first response was really right on track. And I just want students to recognize as well that once you graduate, it's not like we block you or your email stops and things along those lines. So even as far as contacting those who were your contacts on campus, emails, office, like those things stay the same. So you can always reach out and be like, hey, I'm going through this. And that's something we can process and work through together. So to give us a specific, it's a little difficult, but I can say if you reach out, I'm willing to say 100% of the time, someone or whoever you reached out to will help you find those specifics. So for that student who may be in Miami now, or maybe somewhere in Ohio, or whatever that looks like, ultimately we want to see you be successful, and that doesn't just mean graduating, that means a successful life. And as you said, we've committed careers. Some people would even go as far as say committed their lives to helping, and that doesn't stop because you cross the stage. That's just one portion of that lifelong process. So you get us, you got us.
Yeah, that made me think of a great story. This was several years back, but there was a student who had graduated, actually had 2 degrees from Slippery Rock, one in languages and one in a business field, and was just really struggling to find a job, and had gotten very, very down about it, and just reached out to me just because he remembered me, and lived in Pittsburgh at the time, and I actually drove to Cranberry and met him at Panera. We ended up sitting there for a couple of hours. We went through interview techniques and everything. So sometimes we come to you as well. And he had a job within a few weeks then, and he was there for about 7 years. He just got a new job. He comes to a lot of our alumni events, so stays really connected with the Rock. So people on our campus, as I say, it's more like a family than a workplace. That's why I've been here for 12 years. We really try to go out of our way for students. And from time to time, students may have a brush up with somebody who they just don't hit it off with, just like you do with your peers. But particularly for the newer students, first and second year students, forge those relationships with your faculty, with your advisor, with your success coaches. We're always going to be able to lead you to somebody who could help you, whether it's on campus or off campus.
Yeah, once you have those connections, that's your network. It's not going to get taken away from you, like you said, after you graduate. So yeah, utilize those connections. So what if a student does not have self-transportation, especially thinking of like out-of-state students? I know we talked about people kind of coming from Miami to Ohio and that kind of transition, or even abroad students. Does the university offer any type of travel service to help a student get to where they need to be for these services off campus?
That's a great question. That's not one I know the answer to, other than, of course, we've got the Happy Bus locally, and then we have trips to specific destinations. There have been students who have interned in Newcastle and have actually used the bus, got on it down at Sheets, and took their trips into there. I don't know if anybody has used it for medical reasons or anything like that. Yeah, and we've done some special events too over the years where Campbell's Busing was cooperative with us and helped students get there. As far as individual students, I think that would probably be more of a Carla Fauner question, our Dean of Students. She's probably more on top of that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, there is emergency funds that are available to assist students. It is contextual, so it depends on what the situation is. But I think that goes back to just not being afraid to say you need help. we will do our best to try to figure it out. That's not to say we have an answer for every problem. It is to say we will try, or at least try to connect you with someone who can help you. So just in my year and a half, I've seen some pretty extraordinary assistant situations take place, which I can say at other institutions where like we don't do that. But I can say, and that's one of the things I'm proud about as far as working here, we try. We're at least putting in that solid effort. And sometimes that is going above and beyond, and that net of people. Sometimes we'll put money where their mouth is and make sure that you're okay to accomplish what you need to, understanding that sometimes you just need that help to get there. And that may be a institutional fund, or I've seen, and also have done it, faculty, staff pull out of their own pockets to try to make sure students are okay. So you got to say something, and the help will come for sure. So that's something I can confidently say.
Yeah,
about a
it's
week
really
and
great to hear that.
About a week and a half ago, a student needed to get back to, I live in Ohio, a student needed to get back to Ohio for his sister's birthday party, of all things. And we just connected, and I had company on my way home. So, I mean, people on this campus will go out of their way to help students.
Yeah, it's really inspiring for me to hear like how willing the staff and faculty on the campus, how far you guys are willing to go to help the students. So that brings me to, what do our guest students, what do you think about hearing these comments?
I think it's very reassuring. Kind of like Dr. Jones said, you're not going to get blocked after like interacting with some people. Like some people will help you out with a ride. Like just knowing that there's like you can go see someone and that there's someone there that will still be there for you, even outside of what you're asking them to do.
Absolutely.
But
I appreciate that they were saying that there's a stigma and it needs to be like brought down, and there's so many resources that are available to us, but you have to be able to reach out to them and utilize them for sure.
That's exactly what I was going to say next, was the resources are there, you have to seek them out, kind of, whether it's on CORE or the Slippery Rock website. No one's really, unless you're very close with them, going to come knock on your door and say, you should go get your resume looked at, or you should do this. Like, you have to seek it out, but it is there. So after hearing this, what do you think about the resources on and off campus? Do you feel any differently, or did you learn anything about the resources available?
I mean, I learned that like transportation, I never knew that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, same. Since I am towards my last years here, I kind of knew most of the things, but I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah, and I think maybe this can help students that are watching in their first few years that haven't figured it out yet. This can be their kind of their notification of all these things that are on campus and don't have to figure it out for themselves.
Have you talked about the SRU Concern Center on any of your broadcasts?
No, I'll give you the space to do that now.
The SRU Concern Center is a fantastic resource. So if you just look that up in the search tool on our website, the Concern Center is simply an algorithm where you can type in what your concern is, and it'll show you all the resources at Slippery Rock that are available for that. So if you type in "I'm hungry," it'll show you our food pantry, and it'll show you different food resources. So SRU Concern Center, and that is run out of our Office of Student Support and our Dean of Students, Carla Fauner.
Another great resource.
Too, yeah, I'm glad you said that. If you don't have a net or a network of people to reach out to, you can always go on same process, but through our Student Affairs website, and that's with Carla Fauner and in some ways myself, depending on what the report is. But you can fill out a CARES report, and that gives you the opportunity to just say, I'm going through something, hit enter, and it will go to the right people. And then those people will come find you. So that's a way where you I really just don't know where to go at all. That's a great place to start, to just put it out there into the world, and we will find it, and we'll find you, and make sure you get the help that you need. And that could be a more comfortable, easier way, I guess, depending on what you're going through or what you're experiencing, way to ask for help and not feel so alone. So.
Yeah, that's something we didn't talk about, and that is often it's not you, it's somebody you know, it's your roommate, it's one of your friends, it's one of your fraternity or sorority brothers or sisters. And I think I'll quote, I think it's Patrick Beswick, our Director for Residence Life, who I heard say many times, don't be the last person to have known. Never be the last person to have known. Go to a care report file a care report on the student. There's no repercussion on you. Just make sure that we know. Care reports are not something that sit around for a couple of days. Those are responded to right away. And we have 2 or 3 case workers who work on that all the time. And there's more care reports that come in to student support than you could imagine. I mean, there's a lot of things. And most of them are fairly benign, or maybe there's just an academic issue and they get referred over to the success coaches. But, to quote Patrick, don't be the last person to know. Let us know when somebody is in distress.
That's good to hear that there are dedicated people to connect you to these resources. You don't even have to look up who do I call, and they're going to connect you no matter what. So yeah, don't be worried about going to the wrong place or asking the wrong person. Everyone can connect you to someone here. I want to open the space for the students to ask questions directly to our experts over here. If you guys want to ask any questions about services or anything.
I guess I don't really have any questions. I feel like I learned more than what I knew anyway, so.
Yeah.
I did have a question. So I know we get like emails about these types of things, like services and like things to use, but is there like a way maybe like in the future that people from your office could do like a 10-minute spiel going into classrooms and just like saying that there's these things, and like maybe even doing it like during midterms or like around finals time, just like having a little reminder like in person, because I know when I get my emails, like I kind of skip through some of them and I don't really look at them, but when someone's telling me information in person, I'm more aware and listening.
Got you. So I can say we haven't really thought through the in-person approach, which I will definitely take that back with me to my office to see what we can do with that. We have been trying to take a more social media approach. As we know, students are on the socials and carry it in their pocket. So we are trying to just do 30 seconds, 15 seconds of this is what's going on. This is where you can find that resource, especially as we spoke about earlier, during those high stress times, oftentimes around Valentine's Day, finals, and just reminding students of these, or maybe even telling students in some cases, this is where you can go to get support. But we definitely will take the in-person approach to mind and see how we can start to implement from that direction. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I like that idea. We've done that a little bit with tutoring. So on our campus, and students are quite aware, we have what are known as high DFW classes, courses that where you have a lot of D's, a lot of F's, and a lot of withdrawals. And so here about, I guess it was fall, we started taking the tutoring word on the road. So it was not unusual for in your first week of Chem 1, for example, 107, to see the tutoring center set up outside of Chem 1. And as people are waiting to go into class, it's sort of like, everybody gather around, listen, we're going to talk to you about tutoring. And then we ask the faculty, can we then come in within the first week or so and talk a little bit more extensively to that captive audience? Because you only catch so many people before they go in. So we have been trying to take it to the people. I always refer to it as taking it to the people. And now career and success coaching has what we call the career cart. And that is now going out and meeting students where they are in different areas. They've been in Boozle, they've been in Vincent, they've been over in ATS, they've been in ECB. And so yeah, we are trying to take it to the people, but I think I get your point. Midterms, finals, maybe in those last couple of weeks, actually having some of those mental health resources, maybe some advice from the success coaches, take it onto the road where people are really gathering and get that information disseminated. That's a great idea.
Yeah, you definitely got wheels turning, so I appreciate that.
See, ask and you shall receive. Make that connection and ask for it, and someone might be able to do something about it. That's great.
You should go into higher ed.
Yeah.
We'll see, maybe.
Start planning some stuff. I'm glad you mentioned the tutoring center. I actually utilized the tutoring center 6 years ago for Chem 107, so that's funny. That's where you guys set up.
Most commonly requested course. It's one of our most commonly
requested
courses.
I needed it. It helped. I passed that class. I got an A. Well, that wraps up this week's roundtable discussion. Thank you so much to our students and to our 2 experts for joining us today. I've learned so much today, and I've been a student here for 6 years, so you never know what you're going to learn on these episodes. And stick around for our serotonin segment.
Budget-friendly option. You've got the smaller apartments that definitely leave a lot more room for customization. They are also fully furnished. It's kind of our hidden gem You have your options of 3 people units or 2 people units. South Rock's more of an in-between property. It's not super fancy, but it's also still very budget friendly. You have the opportunity to live with 3 other individuals, which definitely helps with the pricing. The units come fully furnished. The bedrooms come with a desk, a dresser, a nightstand, and a full-size bed. Kitchens are fully equipped. You have a washer and dryer in the apartment, and then you have a really nice patio. Stonecrest is quiet, comfortable, classy. We offer 4 bedrooms and we have 2 bedrooms. All of our units are completely furnished. The kitchen is fully equipped. You have a fridge, stove, microwave, dishwasher and garbage disposal, and you do have a patio space as well. For more information, visit us at www.southrockapartments.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
As years pass and people come and go from our lives, all we have is our memories. From the family gatherings to the summer baseball games to that first trip to Disney, those memories are something to be cherished. I thought many of those memories were lost to time and outdated technology, but with Memory Lane Media, they gave me those memories back so that I can share them with my grandkids, and they can share them with their kids one day.
Hello and welcome to our 4th serotonin segment.
Now, this is the part of the show where we review, watch, and learn about all the funny, good, and overall lighthearted things submitted to us this week, right?
I'm excited. If you would like to see your own submission on our showcase, send it to our email at the.happyhour@outlook.com. And for today's episode, we have 3 submissions to share, so let's get into it. Our first video is by the username of Caroline Beanie Wicks of 2 comedians poking fun at finance bro podcasters.
If you saved $1 a day for a year, do you know how much money you have? Roughly $30,000.
If you're 25 and you and your friends don't meet up to day trade, how are you expecting to be a millionaire in your 20s?
If you go to a restaurant and you're like, oh, what am I going to eat for dinner? Like, that's the wrong mindset. You should be thinking, how can I buy this restaurant?
Flip your mindset. If women just stop getting lip injections for a year, what'd they say? 80K?
You need grit, determination, and a small loan from your parents.
I'm at the point where if someone came up to me and said, if you slap your mom, I'll give you $15 million.
Yeah.
I'd slap my mom, but I would not accept the $15 million because, to be honest, that job experience is invaluable on my resume.
They say, oh, I have property. How can I make more money on my property? It's simple, like buy little greenhouses, maybe a red hotel.
And instead of being innovative and building their passive income, people are worried about going to jail. It's really easy to not go to jail. Just roll doubles and you're done.
In life, you need to know who you are. Like, are you an iron? Are you a race car? Are you like a thimble?
Totally. And I'm at the point where when I go back to my hometown, people are like, how do I invest in money like you? How do I buy properties like you? Where'd you get that tiny little monocle from?
They're not too far off from some of these podcasters the way they sound. That's a funny one.
It's all a mindset. Just keep that in mind. We'll take that advice. Here's our second video from the username EerieBXBY that shows another funny and sarcastic response to a podcast host's generalization.
Pony is a crazy word. Pony is one of the words that one day I said pony. And then you stopped and thought about the...
How many girls do you know actually have hobbies?
I actually did that just this morning. That's my favorite hobby.
Yeah, I did that during the roundtable segment. That's awesome.
And here's our final video by the popular podcasters, The Basement Yard, about common words that just don't sound too common.
Pony is a crazy word. Pony is one of the words that one day I said pony.
And then
I
you
was like-
stopped and thought about the word pony for an hour
I
and
was
it
like,
freaked you out?
Yeah.
I
was
did
like,
that with the word
pony?
yes.
Yes?
Yeah. I was like, yes. What?
The word yes.
I was like,
confused you?
yes. Huh? Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No, I swear to God, it like freaked me out the more I looked at it.
Do you ever try to spell a word and you spell it, but you're like, this can't be right. Like, this
Sometimes.
is wrong.
Sometimes, yeah.
I did that for like a half a day with the word could.
Could is a weird one
Like
too.
C-O-U-L-D. I was like, this isn't right.
If I ever say a word too many times, I feel like it's not
Oh my
real,
gosh.
but I don't have a specific word.
No, like literally that happened with me in thimble. I thought about the word thimble for
That's
like.
a weird one.
Yeah, no, totally.
That's a very hard one. And finally, we have our weekly highlights.
Here we take submissions from you, the viewers, who tell us a little bit about the most sensational parts of your week.
Let's take a look at this week's submissions from Dalton, Samantha, and Helena.
So a highlight from my week was talking to my 4-year-old nephew that lives all the way out in Cincinnati.
The highlight of my week was probably finding out that I'm going to Florida at the end of May. You know, I'm really excited for that. It's a great way to celebrate with my friends graduating this year, and it's a great way to start the summer.
My highlight of the week was that I got to spend a lot of time outside with my friends and then just enjoy the weather.
I'm glad everyone's having a good week, and that good weather's gone, so
Don't remind me.
glad she got to enjoy it. I know.
Awesome.
It'll be back, don't worry.
Be back.
Again, if you would like to see your video highlight submissions on our showcase, send it to our email at the.happyhour@outlook.com. And that wraps up our show. Thank you for joining us for the Happy Hour. I'm Lizzie Klein.
And I'm Jeremy Fink. See you all next week.